All right. We are back for Roundtable Ravens episode number 26. I am once again joined by Billie and Melissa, and we're going to talk all about Ravens football. As I did in the last episode, I'm going to continue to do so in the top of these episodes. Please, if you guys like what you hear, please like, subscribe, share, do all the social media things. Go follow me on Instagram and on TikTok at James Brizuela Sports. For some reason, I've been posting videos about my dogs, and they've been doing really well. So I don't know. Maybe I'm not supposed to be focusing on sports and
Hey,
more.
get the dogs on the podcast.
Honestly, my girlfriend suggested that. She's like, you should do like updates and have the dogs next to you. I was like, yeah, it's a good idea, but that's neither here nor there. You can follow me on TikTok, on Instagram, and also on James Rosella Sports on YouTube. Please like, subscribe, share, do all the good stuff, especially if you like what you hear. We will be here each and every week, unless of course life gets in the way and we have to postpone and yada yada yada. But we're here. We're here to talk about the mini camp, which is happening right now, and all about Ravens football. Starting with our boy Roquan Smith. Spoke some truth. Spoke some truth about the 2025 season. He did not hold back. He was very honest and basically called out himself and called out the defense as a whole, which, as we know, was not that great in 2025. He said, quote, I think personally my season wasn't the season that I wanted to have regardless of the circumstances, because you can't control circumstances regardless of what circumstances you're put in. So you control your response. And so no excuses at all, but it wasn't a season on my standard, nor was it from a defense perspective as well. End quote. He also said, quotes, I think we're all pros, so you know how to truly assess yourself and what you did and what you did not do. So I think each and every man has to be true to themselves and look themselves in the mirror. And yeah, there's a high standard, especially here from the defensive perspective as well as from my perspective, because we got five all pros not making it, something like that. Like, that's just personal, end quote. So a whole lot was said, but he was right on the money. He was not happy with the defense as a defensive leader. That makes total sense. And, just looking at everything, looking at what the Ravens did in 2025, the circumstances I think that we're pretty well aware of are the injuries that occurred. Teddy Buchanan was hurt. Marlon Humphrey was hurt, I think, a couple games or one game. Regardless, there
I
was a
think
lot of
every playmaker on the
yeah.
field was injured at some point during that
Yeah, it was
season.
just it was a really rough year that got away from the Ravens, but defensively, the Ravens organization has been a defensive forward organization for multiple years, practically the entirety of the organization being an organization. But 2025 was rough, and yeah, Roquan Smith just had to tell it like it is.
Yeah, that's the leader of the room there, especially for the defensive back. So, it's good to see him as that center, kind of, not really blame anyone specifically, just kind of a general sweeping statement of, no one was up to standard, and holding himself to account and what he's looking to kind of get out of this season coming up. He spoke highly of Anthony Weaver as well, said that he was confident that he can get the best out of them, and he's excited to have him back in the room, and he likes the way he communicates and likes the way that he does stuff. So maybe just a change of energy and vibe is exactly what they needed. And it feels like, they've kind of brushed off last season now, and they're not clinging too deeply to that.
Yeah, definitely. But he has a huge point in that there's so many all pros on that defense that there's no excuse
Oh,
really.
yeah.
There's no excuse for the way that they performed. And, being a leader, you have to be the one that A, calls yourself out, and then B, calls out the team. That's what leaders do. You can't just sit there and go, oh, hey, we'll get them next time. That's not how the Ravens operate. That's never how the Ravens have ever operated. Obviously, when Lamar Jackson came into the building, the offense became explosive. And so it was more so a balance and not so much like, hey, the Ravens are all defense, defense, defense. But I think the defense got away from them in 2025, obviously. And you're not going to go and lose that fact. You're not going to lose the fact that the offense is explosive, but you need the defense to go back to what it was. And just like you just said, Anthony Weaver is back in the building. He's huge. He's huge. Jesse Minter is a defensive minded coach. Obviously, the expectation would be that they're going to be working on the defense because your head coach is that. And Declan Doyle apparently is going to be great for the offense. Obviously, again, we don't know what's what. We won't know what's what until training camp starts and the pads come on. Then we can get an idea, get a sense of what this team
And
really
even
can
then,
be. Yeah, and even then you don't know because it's team versus team, not, all that good stuff. So that being said, still, like, it's good that he called everybody out, called himself out, because now you're taking a microscope and you're looking at what went wrong and how to just bounce back and move forward in 2026.
Well, yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? Is identifying beyond injuries because even if there are injuries, it's not acceptable that one guy goes down and the next man up isn't there to kind of step into his place. So hopefully, with Jesse Minter in the building, obviously John Harbaugh was there for ages and ages. Like he started out as a special teams mind, but he very much became a very well-rounded coach. But I think having Jesse Minter in the building, who is, known for his defensive strategy, that's kind of what he's made his name for the last few years, could just be that boost, getting that identity back. Like you said, it is so important because, of course, it's been the Lamar show for so many, the Lamar and Derrick Henry show for the last few years. And the defense have had their incredible moments. Like the Mike McDonald era was amazing for the Ravens, and it kind of gave them that old school Ray Lewis, Ed Reed, Terrell Suggs boost that they had back in the past. But I think that they just want to get back to that standard because it has slipped since Mike McDonald went out the building. And it can't just be, one great defensive mind leaves the building because, as we expect, Anthony Weaver could be in candidacy for a head coach situation next year. So you can't just have, oh, well, now Anthony Weaver's gone, so it's going to be another year. I think just having Jesse Minter at the helm, kind of always on top of that, calling the plays, working with the defensive coordinator in tandem is really going to get them back to that identity.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. One little thing, extra thing that he did say, did he talk about? He did praise Venga Ioane as well, saying that the pads aren't even on, but he can see the physicality. So I know we're very excited to see what he can do on that line. That's not about the defense. I just want to throw that in there. But
Always noticing, it's a good thing.
yeah, I mean, everybody's noticing he's, drawing eyes for a reason. Everybody's very excited about his capabilities on the line. But there's somebody else that is now joining the defense that was a Raven, now is a Raven again, and that is Mr. Calais Campbell. We've talked about him. We're very excited about it, simply because this dude's a consummate pro. No matter where he's gone, no matter what he's done, he's always been a pro. He's honestly one of my favorite players in the league just because of how he carries himself and how he's acted. He was on the Dolphins, and I was very happy about it. And then he almost got traded to the Ravens. Didn't happen. He talked about that. He said Eric DeCosta and him have been in contact over the last few years, and that they tried to trade for him again. When he was with the Cardinals as well last year. But regardless, he got 6.5 sacks. He's 39 years old, 18 years in the league, about to be his 19th season. Not only is this a huge get for the Ravens because they get a true leader in the locker room, somebody that can impart that knowledge on Zion Young, impart that knowledge on Tavius Robinson and Mike Green and all those young players. But also, this is going to be Calais Campbell's final year. He said that. He said that he has been toying with the idea over the past 2 seasons that he would walk away from football, but he said for sure he's operating under the presumption that this is his final year in the NFL. That being said, this could be an all-pro year for Calais Campbell. Your final year in the NFL. You're surrounded by the all-pro players that we mentioned previously. You're in a defense that's really good, minus the 2025 season. A lot of the guys that he played with before are still there, so there's familiarity there. Anthony Weaver is there as well, like we just brought up. So there's a lot going there. And Calais Campbell, last year, I expect that he's just going to leave it all out on the field. Not that he does it every single season, but even more so, if this is truly his final year, he's going to go bananas. And let's see what happens.
Yeah, I love Calais. I love his energy. I think he's a great presence in the room, and that level of experience, just no matter how strong of a leader you are, like Roquan, just those years on you add something to you, and it will always add something to a locker room. And yeah, he was saying this is his plan to be the last year, but he has also said that he said that every year for the last few years. And so he was saying that he plays well enough to get the opportunity to play again the next year. And I think that that's important for him to keep in mind that maybe he might want to do that. It could be a good motivating factor, but I do feel like he is hoping that, this will be, I think his family is hoping this will be the year that he, comes home and wraps it up with them. I also saw that he's 5 games away from beating the most games played by a defensive end. Wow. He currently has 278 games and he needs to beat 282. So it's a good incentive.
Yeah.
Come back, break a record, add your name to the history books. He said it wasn't a goal that he had, but he's grateful for the moment and hopes he can continue to play. And Jesse Minter also spoke about him, said he was impressed by his tape last year, kind of threw some shade to the Cardinals, being like, even on a limited team or whatever. And I was like, Jesse, don't do that. Keep that to yourself. I mean, hey, it's big talk. You don't want to look like an idiot now going out there. But he said that his, potential was great and he's excited to work with him. So I think it's always good to have someone who's been on the previous team and on previous great teams as well, great Ravens defenses. He can kind of bring that mindset back to the room, kind of tell everyone what they were doing at that time and, reuniting with players that he's played with previously. I think it's just one of the great additions to this year's defense.
Yeah, and he called it divine that he's at where he's at, and presumably his final year. And you're right, he did say that he said this before. He said that he's talked about retirement, but he said also, um, I always tell myself to play well enough to be able to get a job again if I want to. So if I perform, go out there and perform to the level I want to play, then I'm probably going to have to turn somebody down next year. So
Yeah.
regardless, I think the idea is like he wants to retire on his own terms, meaning that he still may be able to play in 2027, but instead he'll go, you know what? I'm good. 19 years in the league as a defensive player is crazy. That's
Oh yeah.
crazy. That's crazy for any NFL player, regardless of offense, defense. But for a defensive end, for a defensive player to still be playing this high level is
Yeah.
is absolutely crazy. And we can't say anything more good about Calais Campbell, regardless of what team he's been on. He's always been this guy. He's always been very well spoken, very respectable, and he's always, I just enjoy hearing him talk about the game and seeing him play. He's a game wrecker, and I think with him and Trey Hendrickson and Zion Young and everybody on that defensive line and everything, all the linebackers, I think it's gonna be fun to watch. I'll just say that.
Yeah. Exactly that, really. To be that age, to have that experience under your belt, to have put your body through what it's been through and still be making 6 sacks. It's amazing, on its own. Don't even think the Ravens really scraped more than 6 sacks last year. So, to have him back and contributing to that, is a really, really impactful thing.
Yeah, definitely. Again, what better time in a year that's the presumed bounce back year, and a year that everybody believes that the Ravens are going to do well. Which, again, you got Lamar Jackson. That's always a chance to do well. But the team is healthy. There's been great additions through the draft and free agency. So the time is now, as corny as
Hmm.
it is to say. But Calais Campbell presumed final year. He's back on a defense that he knows. He's back with an organization he knows. Things are pointing to a bounce back year, but again, we'll see. Where the pads aren't on yet, and preseason hasn't happened yet, and the season's not here. So this is just all
Yeah.
presumptions about what may or may not happen. Moving
He
right
obviously
along.
sees something special in this team. Otherwise,
Oh yeah,
you don't want to waste your time coming back for something. So he loved his time. Most people love their time at the Ravens. There's always the saying, once a Raven, always a Raven. Hopefully he'll retire a Raven. And yeah, hopefully this is worth his time.
definitely. And he did say this is a great environment. It's a top flight organization. Teammates I have a lot of admiration for. Great coaching staff. I feel really good about this year. So there you go. Presumed final year. You're back with the Ravens. All exciting stuff there on the defense. Maybe not so much on the offense. This is a subject that we've talked about multiple weeks at this point. We're going to
Yeah.
keep talking about it, but now there's kind of a semblance of this kind of getting figured out. The center issue. They have not brought anybody else in, but again, we're rarely at the end of the spring OTA minicamp football portion, and then there's about a 5 week period that they have off, and then right into training camp at the end of July. So there could very well be more additions through training camp. As we know, training camp is the bigger way in which rosters are evaluated, and if coaching staff see something they don't like, and Eric DeCosta sees stuff he doesn't like, then he will be bringing in more people. It's not like this is not going to happen. He's talked about it. Jesse Minter talked about it. But regardless, there is no starting center yet, but somebody has emerged as a kind of favorite so far in spring football. Oddly enough, I didn't think that it was going to be Jovan Gwynn up for competition for the position, but it's been Danny Pinter, Jovan Gwynn, and Corey Bullock that are in the mix. And Danny Pinter is now the leading candidate to be the starting center. The issue here is Danny Pinter has only had 10 starts in the NFL at the center position.
I mean, what do you even say? I know that Jessica Min said in May that people can expect to see someone different out there every day. They're gonna have competition, which is exactly what we've expected the whole time. They're gonna test the waters, see what happens, see what works, see who slots in where. And I think you can do that. But at some point towards the mid to late summer, like you really need to set that in stone so that chemistry and trust can be built between him and Lamar. Because yes, Lamar's a professional, so are Pinter and Gwyn, they've been in the league for years, but looks a bit younger. Maybe, I don't know, we'll see what happens there. But when you've had a guy like Tyler Linderbaum there, and it's not something Lamar Jackson has had to worry about for his entire career, pretty much. It's not like a position that he's been having to be concerned about. It can't be great now to even just having that in the back of your mind. Like, this isn't the guy that I'm used to. Like, things will just feel different. Like, I don't know, like, just that momentum is going to feel entirely different. So I think at some point they just need to solidify it. And if you don't plan on signing any more free agents, if you're done now, like, just start setting something in place. I just think that that needs to be prioritized because it is such a crucial position to the success of Lamar, but also to the success of Derrick Henry.
And the entirety of the offense just in general.
Oh,
But
100%.
but you're
Exactly.
but you're right. They need to quicken the pace in which they figure this out. But again, they won't know until pads come on. They won't know until they start getting a sense of like, is Danny Pinter really that guy? They brought him in. I thought for competition purposes not to really be the starter. Jovan Gwynn was kind of a surprise. He's a guard that they're going to convert into a center. He's never started at center in the NFL, which is a concern. Corey Bullock is still there. He was the direct backup to Tyler Linderbaum, but he also saw no action because Tyler Linderbaum just never gets hurt. But
It's a rock.
yeah, but that's the thing too, is like if Corey Bullock isn't the guy, if Jovan Gwynn isn't the guy, Danny Pinter's more the guy, you still need to also determine your backup. So if that backup or that starter is not in the building, you have to bring them in ASAP. Exactly like you just said, you only have a short amount of time to build that chemistry with Lamar Jackson. And the center position is entirely a huge position for the Ravens, especially with protecting Lamar Jackson, moving the pile, getting the lanes open for Derrick Henry. It's on and on and on and on. I mean, that's for any team, but even more so because of the success in which Lamar Jackson can throw the ball and run the ball as well as Derrick Henry and everybody else. Like you need time for him to be able to gun it downfield for these receivers, yada yada yada. I mean, everybody knows this is standard NFL stuff, but to not have a clear idea of who the starting center is still very troublesome. And we've been talking about it for multiple weeks. And yeah, I mean, Danny Pinter appears to be kind of the guy, but they're going to be going through those three, I believe, and through training camp to see.
Yeah, but I think it's concerning that there isn't a clear standout. Like, I know that these are things that you kind of learn over time, and especially like when you've had it set in stone for so long, it's, custom to just giving everyone a shot, seeing what works, because that is important to do. But it just is a massive concern, and I think it's going to be something that's going to continue to be a concern for fans, at least watching that. But it could be people just be hitting the panic button too soon because Tyler Linderbaum was so great. Like, is it fair to really compare them to that? Probably not. They're going to have to adjust and change things around and adapt to what they have now. Like that just is what it is. It wasn't the plan. And I think that Eric DeCosta made that very clear. They were fighting for Linderbaum to the last second. So this was never the plan of what was going to happen. And this wasn't an issue that they thought they were going to have to work through. So I think it makes sense that this is how it's going. But
Mm.
yeah, time is ticking and we need to kind of get that set in stone ASAP. Lamar's a professional. He can play with anyone. He can figure it out with anyone. But like, it's a really big piece of your success.
Yeah, and he was even asked about that when he spoke to the media like almost a week ago. He was asked if he's going to have any kind of say in the starting center, to which he defaulted to like, Eric DeCosta and those people do a good job, and I trust in what they're going to do. But I think more so that he was being asked about that because of his involvement in Jesse Minter as head coach, and now obviously like the assumption that he's going to have more to say or more involvement in decisions for the roster and the team. Not that he probably didn't before, but people maybe assume that he has more power, if you will, this season more than anything else, which obviously that makes obvious sense because he's the franchise cornerstone of this organization. But I think that part's a little bit too out of his hands in a sense. Like, unless of course somebody's just not working out, he's gonna say like this. Not
Yeah,
that this guy
100%.
sucks. He's gonna be like, this isn't working out. You got to go find somebody else. But I don't think that the team's nowhere near that. Like you just said, I don't think it's time to hit the panic button just yet. But you got to figure it out when training camp starts and you start working with the ones who's going to be out there and are they going to be able to hold their own. Um,
Hmm.
and we'll see from there. I would say the silver lining of all of this is that they do have clear backups in Jovan Gwynn and or Corey Bullock, which is good because if somebody goes
Yeah.
down center wise, at least you kind of have a backup there. But the fact that Danny Pinter has 10 starts and Jovan Gwynn has none is incredibly concerning. Obviously, you're not
But
going to get
hey, at one point, Tyler Linderbaum had zero stuff.
very, very
Well, I'm
no.
going to tell myself
Hey, look, it's true, and
in the NFL at least.
any year to year can change a player's complete performance, their opportunities. A lot of times when you bring in these veteran players, they've never been given a shot to truly see what they can do. For
Yeah.
all we know, Danny Pinter could be a Pro Bowl center. We don't know, but it's just still concerning because of how important Tyler Linderbaum was, and he's now gone, and they didn't prepare for it. And now this is kind of like you're seeing the aftermath of that of what happened. Um,
Yeah. I
but
think Declan Doyle's probably going to, he seems a straight talking enough guy that if he felt like what the lineup wasn't working, he would be quite comfortable saying, like, hey, this isn't working out. We need to figure it out. So I think we're going to see this develop more through the summer as opposed to right now. And I think obviously it's just the question on everyone's minds because that's just a massive hole that needs to be filled.
absolutely, absolutely. They got to figure it out. They will figure it out again. Training camp is just hasn't even been here yet. They're barely going to be wrapping up their mandatory mini camp this week, and then that's it. They take a break, and then
Hmm.
we'll come back big time for training camp. But we got some other updates. One of which we've also been talking about for weeks. Kind of an update, kind of not an update, sort of an update. I don't know. We're still in the dark. I think everybody's in the dark, but naturally, Jesse Minter was asked about Madubuike and if he will be ready to go or if he's going to be playing or whatever the update was. And he said he kind of scoffed at the answer a little bit, not scoffed at it, but he was like, kind of like maybe it's a more so like, hey, come on, I've been already answering this, but he did say we're waiting for that to work itself out, but I feel good about where it's at. I don't know what that means. I can't presume to know what that means, but I think that again they're kind of giving Madubuike the grace to announce it himself. But I'm still in a belief that he's going to be back in 2026 at some point.
I agree. I think that the Ravens have a history of doing this. They tend to allow players to speak for themselves. It was the same with the Lamar contract. It was the same with Tyus Bowser when things happened with that. So it's not uncommon for them to respond this way, but I really don't think there would be this repeated messaging of feeling good about something if there was absolutely no chance. It would just be oh, we're not going to talk about that. Like that's kind of happening behind the scenes, but there'd be no need to say that. And I think that we've spoken about in previous episodes where there have actually been comments on him training and testing things and seeing things, and he wouldn't be doing that if there was no possibility of him coming back. Do I think he's going to be week one starting? No. Do I think he's going to be used a lot? No. Like it'll probably be very limited in a small role and just slotting him in where they can and get like testing the waters, not trying to push him before he's ready to go. But yeah, I personally think that it sounds like he could be coming back, and I think that there's no like for other than adding Calais and then they have Trey Hendrickson on the other side, like they're not really padding that out anymore, and I think that could be because they believe that there's space for Madubuike to kind of slot in where they need him this year.
Definitely. Yeah. I think you're right. If I was a betting man, which I am, I would bet on him coming back probably mid-season. But again,
Yeah.
not being utilized. Maybe he's like third down situations while they like slowly get him back into the fold. Obviously, like neck surgery is a big thing, and his recovery and what have you, however long that takes. Yeah, I mean, it would be great to have him back, but they're not going to rush him back by any means because if he's going to be fully healthy and ready to go and a big contributor in 2027, you don't want to rush any of that in 2026 and risk further injury or re-aggravation or any of that stuff.
Yeah, I think it's just a week to week situation. I know the phrase week to week was very triggering from the Harport era. He would say that a lot about a lot of different players, but I think that it will just be going through the summer, seeing how his body feels. And I think that that's why no one's saying anything definitive either way, because it really is like until you test it, you don't actually know what your body's capable of. And I think that they're going to do that in a safe and controlled environment. So I guess we'll see, and we'll just continue to hope that, he gets to come back.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Again, like Jesse Minter said, we're waiting for that to work itself out, as are we, and as are the rest of
Yeah.
the Ravens loving football world. We'll when it comes out, it comes out.
Yeah.
Moving right along here, our final thing to discuss, which is arguably, I think, going to be one of the biggest competition battles in training camp, and going to be one of the biggest competition battles here on the Roundtable Ravens podcast. We've talked about this, and now it seems that there's a little bit more going on. So the Ravens drafted Jacoby Lane out of USC in round 3. Right after that, they went and drafted Indiana's Elijah Sarratt in round 4. Both have been showing out in training camp, or excuse me, in OTAs and in mini camp. Both are now going to be getting a sizable shot to potentially be maybe a starter or a very heavily used rotational player, something along those lines. Jesse Minter did speak to the media just yesterday about everything going on. And he said, quote, yeah, I think, when you draft guys third and fourth round, especially, the kind of two guys in the same position, I do think that, most of the time you'll probably end up getting, hopefully both of them, in a perfect world, both, develop and play really well. I do think there'll be major opportunities for at least one of them, end quote. This is huge for the simple fact that we've talked about this again for weeks on end. The Ravens need wide receiver help, which is why they went and got both of these players. You still got Zay Flowers, you still got Rashad Bateman, but Bateman hasn't really lived up to any of his potential, and this could be the year that he needs to show out, or the Ravens are going to have to cut ties and be like, all right, we're done. We can't be patient anymore. There is no telling if Bateman's going to be good or not be good in 2026. At which point, if he does not play up to par, guess what? Both of these rookies could get sizable playing time. But Minter did state one of them will, no matter what. My money's on Sarratt. I know your money's on Lane. I know you like Lane. But I'll say this. During the first mini camp, there was some good stuff going on. He caught a bomb from Lamar Jackson, caught a threaded pass from Lamar Jackson. He has a 60% contested catch rate out of college, which is huge. The reason why I'm more of a believer in Sarratt is because of that fact right there. I talked about how he's the kind of player that can be that yards after the catch type of player, but also he's able to catch the ball. He jumps up, he can catch the ball in contested situations, and then probably break off and get a few more yards here. That's how I feel it's going to be better for him as opposed to Jacoby Lane. Look, I know you're gonna say what you got to say about it. Lane is tall. Lane is a playmaker too. He's a red zone target. But I'll say this: Sarratt, far more productive. I know that he had Fernando Mendoza. I know all that. Yada yada yada. Still,
I didn't say anything about Elijah Sarratt. I just like Jacoby's energy, and I'm seeing him all over social media with Marlon Humphrey right now. Those two are two sides of the same coin. He is the Marlon Humphrey of the offense, and sometimes you just need a Marlon Humphrey energy that Jacoby Lane clearly has, and that people are enjoying, and the team are enjoying him.
yeah,
They're enjoying his energy. He is being exploited all over the Ravens social media right now for content. And that is what I'm saying about them. And also those incredible one-handed catches in college are just, sometimes exactly what you need. And I agree with you in the sense of like, well, outside of what Minter has very clearly said, like one of these guys is going to get, when he says there's major opportunities for at least one of them, and they have similar qualities, and he's impressed by both of them. But Eric DeCosta's been hanging on to the Rashad Bateman tree since day, like he has every single year. He's like, it's going to be Bateman's year. It's going to be Bateman's year. And I don't even know if Rashad Bateman wants it to be his year. I think he is over it. He was probably burned out by the organization because I don't think he's had the chance to show off, because he has come in and made playmaking differences. Like he has come in and made a difference on so many, like he's saved their butts on so many different occasions. And I think he just wants the opportunity to show that, but you need to show up and do that. Like I don't know. I'm not watching like all of the stuff coming out of mini camp and OTAs and training camp and when that comes. But I think that if Lamar trusted that he was the guy, like he'd be calling for him to be called on a lot more. If he was like, we need Bateman out there, I think that would be happening. And I don't know if he's like willing to step up in this space or if he just wants to move on to another team. Maybe with the fresh, reset, he might feel a bit more like energized to deliver on that. But it does seem like these two rookies are going to get their chance to show up alongside Zay Flowers because, that's Lamar's guy, number one, that he's looking at Zay Flowers. So who's going to come up alongside of Zay and emerge? And I think that gives Sarratt and Lane this great opportunity because like one of them really has to fill a hole. They really have to. If Rashad Bateman is not going to be that guy, then it's their turn.
Yeah, no, that's hitting the nail on the head for sure. I again, Bateman is just not, and it could be the situation where he, like you just said, maybe he's tired of it. Maybe he needs a change of scenery. He's been strung along, if you will, by Eric DeCosta in the organization. I don't mean it in that way, but sort of in that way, in the sense of like maybe he's just been up against it. And they're like, when are you gonna emerge? When are you gonna emerge? And if you hear that so many times, you eventually you break down. You're like, you know what? Like maybe I don't belong here, kind of a thing. They've waited and waited and waited and re-signed him and yada yada yada. And now it's like, okay, well, 2026 is that year. If you cannot make a sizable impact, then you're gone. That's just the way it is. You got to move on. The Ravens would not have drafted these two receivers if they did not believe that, or understood that they needed wide receiver help. Obviously, there was a lot of talk about them going and picking wide receiver higher in the second, but they went and got Zion Young and all that good stuff. But they need pass catching help no matter what. Zay Flowers cannot do it all by himself. He cannot do it by himself. You only have one good receiver. Your offense becomes one dimensional. And obviously on the tight end front, you got Mark Andrews, and then you got Josh Cuevas, and oh my God, I forgot the other guy that they drafted. Goodness. It's gonna bother me. I gotta look it up. Hold on. Because they went two tight ends as well. Dabbit. 1 second. Let me look
it.
It
is
Chandler
Matthew
Rivas.
Hibner.
No, Matthew Hibner. Sorry, wrong one. Josh Cuevas and Matthew Hibner. Nope. But that being said, that's still more pass catching help. Both of these guys can block. Both of these guys are pass catching tight ends. So there's a need there. There's a deep need there. They're obviously looking towards the future. When Mark Andrews also steps away, they have these two guys coming in. Hopefully both work out. But the same thing with the wide receiver department. You got Zay Flowers there. That's fantastic. But apart from that, nobody has emerged as a solid weapon. Tez Walker could have a breakout year. There's hope that will happen. In which case, if that does happen, and then if Sarratt or Lane or both also show that they're plenty capable, that's even more of a reason that Bateman won't be back, regardless of like him having a good year or not.
Tez Walker at one point, his only catches were touchdowns. So, if he's given a chance, we don't know now because as much as, they've had different offensive coordinators through the years, they were still under the Harbaugh umbrella. And so, that's a vision that Harbaugh has for the offense that I just don't think exists in this current administration. I think Declan Doyle is going to come in and shake things up. We might just see that Rashad Bateman fits in better with what's going on here. Or Tez Walker or, these the two rookies. So I think that I don't think it's going to look the way that it has looked before. I don't think that I think the run game is obviously going to be a big part of it, but in the past, the majority of it has been the, Lamar and Derrick Henry show for the last few years. And so I think that he's looking to kind of bring out that pass catcher in Lamar because sometimes that they just figure it out on the running and then that's not working anymore. And you need to be able to make those big plays in the air. So we don't know. We really don't know. Like, I think in previous years, it's a little bit more clearer. Like, if Harbaugh was still in the building, I would say I don't really think Bateman's going to go anywhere. But I just don't know with Declan Doyle. Like, you can't predict it.
Definitely. And I mean, that's even more of a thing, too, in this new look offense with this apparently offensive genius in Declan Doyle. If he starts shaking things up and things going well and Bateman's still not emerging, then you have no choice. But you have rookies that are hungry. You got other players, Tez Walker, that can jump in there. So you're right. Maybe Bateman has not worked out in the John Harbaugh system, but we don't know if he can have an impact in the Declan Doyle system. We'll find
Yeah.
out. Again, we won't know until the pads come on. We won't know until the true football starts getting played in training camp and beyond that. But there is hope that Bateman can make an impact. If not, you got these young rookies right there ready to go. One of them is going to get good opportunities. It could be both. We'll see. But yeah, this
There's good
has
incentives for all of them. They need to all just, work hard to take that space.
definitely, definitely, and who doesn't want to catch touchdowns from Lamar Jackson?
Hmm.
Just saying. But thank you guys so much for listening. This has been Roundtable Ravens, episode number 26. Thank you, Billie, for joining me once again. And again, please, everybody, if you like what you hear, go like and subscribe and share and do all the social media things. It helps us get more exposure. We will be back next week. We're going to be talking about the end of minicamp and then start figuring out what we can talk about while they're on break. But we'll figure it out because, yeah, we'll figure it out.
There's always something going on. Someone's always saying something online.
Exactly. There you go. We'll just go and listen to what players are saying on podcasts. But yeah,
Yeah.
thanks for listening.